having taken the trouble of traveling this distance in spite of, though a very lovely shower though, I would say it was really, really drenching. But thanks for coming all the way, because I understand may be very well known to all of you. But I will take a moment to actually introduce you to PhD to set the proper perspective to what we are about to discuss, and you will understand why we are the ones who are discussing this today. The chamber has actually been working for the past 118 years to catalyze industry, trade, promotion, entrepreneurship, and somehow we've come to be more recognized for the startups, the MSMEs, and actually the champion of the cause for the startups and the venture capitalists at the same point of time. I remember in the recent managing committee, my president specifically talking about Silicon Valley Bank and what has happened there and what could happen furthermore. So I was very pleased to know, because I come basically from a venture capital background. Though I'm a merchant banker, but I come from that background. So I really, really understand some of you. I'll go into a little more detail of that also. Of course, you recognize PhD as a very forward and proactive, dynamic, pan-India ENTICE chamber. But I would say that it's something that makes us proud about is that we really partner your progress. We catalyze the MSME. We try and make sure that we handhold the startups, and we also try and make sure that they sprout, become a successful organization, and continue to serve society, economy, business, trade, and grow India into a much stronger nation. As an integrated partner to this development is what we have positioned this today's interaction. Well, I think ENTICE, you are aware, stands for Energy Transition Innovation Challenge. And we are very proud, very pleased that we are partnering ENTICE to talk about this innovation challenge that you are going to be discussing today with us. I really, really look forward to a very participative discussion on that. Jeep is no longer something which is not very known into this country, but I'm very proud to say that the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, which is the full form of Jeep, is actually a very, very well-meaning organization. And it is a visionary philanthropic alliance which was launched at COP26 with the partnership of this Rockefeller Foundation, IKEA Foundation, and the Bezos Earth Fund. So I would say the parentage itself speaks volumes about what Jeep is and how it is positioned. And now their aim is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy by fostering innovation, collaboration, and investment in clean energy technologies. That I think is very well understood, because COP's main mission is that, and that is where it has been established. So Jeep aims to create, along with ENTICE, an ecosystem for innovations to scale low-cost, impactful solutions and fast-track your journey towards the SDGs. So once again, a very warm welcome to all of you. But I would like to bring out that this is though termed as a challenge, but what I understand is this is more like a collaboration actually, or rather the intent is to create a collaborative environment in which the startups, innovators like you all grow together and actually add more value and green energy, I would say, in a more meaningful manner to not only the nation but the globe at large. So I welcome you once again into that, and the objective I would like to define here for a moment. The objective for the startup to obtain this Series A funding is very well documented, and of course you should note that, which is of a great value to you before you go into the details. The primary objective is to accelerate growth, scale operations, and establish a solid foundation for long-term success, which should be the objective of any, I would say, startup funding, as I think they probably will go into a little more detail on that. So by securing this funding, startups can strengthen their position in the market, enhance their technological capabilities, expand their customer base, and drive transitions towards sustainable and clean energy. So I think I will leave a little more of that to Neha to cover, because he's going to also explain to you people how you can really go together and be part of this challenge or collaboration, as she'll explain more of that to you. But suffice to say that PhD would like to handhold any startup, not only in the energy sector, but many other sectors as well. Some of you were trying to discuss with me beyond energy sector also. Though today's discussion would clearly be focused on clean energy, green energy, and your innovations in trying to come up with more innovative products, technologies, delivery solutions, and a lot of other things. For example, I remember we did a Norwegian energy exposition, in which the Norwegian companies came and they were talking about lots of innovations of the kinds of nodules in transmission sector. Some of you will be able to relate, because I interacted with some of you, and what caught some of my attention was that they were, building along with the transmission lines. They were putting these small nodules kind of things, so that not only is the wire properly getting to be, the traction being kept at an appropriate level, but also using the same to transmit a lot of data, and also giving a feedback about the temperatures and other things and the health of the transmission line. So I realized that I come from a background in energy sector. I've been advising government of Gujarat in the various, credited with the transformation of the energy sector, and also the financial advisor to Solar Mission of Gujarat. I realized that what is of great importance is the transmission and the distribution sector, which finally actually can change the way you can save energy or produce more green energy without actually going into the generation part of the whole thing by saving it, which is what some of the people have achieved in this country also bring as an expertise on their table. So I think I would like to leave it at that, and once again welcome you people, and offer our availabilities for anything that you feel that we can handhold you, assist you, guide you, or even help you out with. Thank you once again for coming all the way, and great pleasure to be with you.
System which ENTICE is trying to create. Now I would like to invite Ms. Neha Kumari, who will give a presentation about GIAP, as also introduce the ENTICE challenge. Over to Neha, please.
So, thank you so much for making the time. We really appreciate this, and hi to all the people who have joined us virtually as well. I'll keep it short, and then would want to give you opportunity to ask any questions that might be relevant for you to know at this moment. I think we covered this a little bit already, but just to give you a reiteration of why are we really here. We are called GIAP, which is the Global Alliance for People and Planet. It's an international organization already working in multiple countries, and their interventions in India have started only like 2 years back. But previous to that, if you guys are aware of something called as Smart Power India, which was here for about 7 to 8 years, basically GIAP is, the leadership of GIAP and Smart Power India remains the same. So they have now officially transformed from Smart Power India to GIAP. And this was formed at COP26. It is funded by Bezos Foundation, IKEA Foundation, and the Rockefeller Foundation. And the idea was really to, support transitions in green energy by 2 pillars that were key. One was supporting innovation, and one was capital mobilization, and these are directly proportionate to each other, right? Moving on, just understanding why are we really here. Of course, we understand the challenges, and if as startups you would already know a lot more about this domain. But just to very briefly cover, basically we saw 4 challenges which was, when it comes to execution of ideas, there are always, challenges, whether it is in infrastructure or, demonstrating your product in the market, etc. So technical challenges always took the limelight. Then, in spite of the last decade, witnessing a boom in the funding for sure. I think where we started 10 years back and where are we now, I think funding definitely has improved, but is it still enough? That's the larger question that we want to solve for. And that's where we saw that, financial challenges for enabling the commercialization of solutions is still missing. And when you see at the funding landscape in India specifically, there are a lot of avenues where you can get seed funding, but maybe Series A, Series B and Series C remains the largest gap. So with ENTICE, GAP is trying to fulfill that gap, and this year is the beginning of that journey. And once you have the product, when it comes to really deploying it to the market, regulatory policies generally are very complex. Startups don't understand it. What's the legal process going to look like, etc. So again, there is going to be some work around that. Not just leave you hanging at raising the capital, but how do you really go about deploying that solution in the market technically. And lastly, what we saw is that there are a lot of startups coming in and very passionate about generating products, which is great, but are the consumers really demanding for it? So there's a large gap between the supply and demand side, right? So do we need to come up with some sort of an incentivization structure for adopting of those solutions? That's where, again, there's a major gap, and I think most of the organizations are wanting to focus on that, and with GAP's interventions, we will try and get there hopefully faster. That's only because I think the backbone is looking pretty solid, including support from PhD, and we are very hopeful that the transition is going to happen very, very soon. Moving on, these are the two pillars of action that I already touched upon, which was focusing on innovation and enhancing the capital flow. So presenting ENTICE, the name is enticing, but what it really stands for is Energy Transitions Innovation Challenge. And the way we want to position it is just very, very simple. It's an innovation challenge which will accelerate people positive solutions. It's a jargon, everyone needs to sell their product, that's great. But if I have to decode this, what it really means is that can we have someone or some platform which can be the aggregator of players in the market who are potentially already working at their levels, whether it is capital mobilization, whether it is market deployment, whether it is mentorship. I think somewhere or the other, majority of organizations are working on it. Can someone bring them together under one umbrella? That's the larger goal that we are focusing on. And that is the approach that you can see that, just solidifying the partnership. That's the key to really enable transitions faster. Now this might be of interest with the next slide, that we have 3 offers to make with this challenge. One is, like I think we already covered, is that we are offering Series A funding. And we'll come to the technical aspects of that as well, what is going to be the evaluation criteria, all of that. We are also going to provide market linkage for your solution deployment, and that is going to be interlinked directly with the level of maturity of solution that you are at. So for example, if your product shows promise to be able to deliver a specific target, let's say over 6 months, your funding will be different versus someone who can do it over a period of 1 year. Right? So maybe that expedition is generally going to happen with the funding. And lastly, we are going to connect you with mentors and expertise in the industry directly, which will help you with commercialization of that solution. Next slide. How are we really going to do this? So this is a very quick timeline. On 10th of June, the applications actually have gone live, which was last weekend. Between June and July, we are going to focus on amplification, and I have to admit that this is the first time that ENTICE is being launched in India, which means that there has to be some sort of credibility that we want to bring in, and which means that we need to speak to you one-on-one. We can't just hide behind digital media, so which is why we are here. And from August to October, we'll really move on to the technical evaluation and the due diligence aspect of these solutions. And finally, once that is done, we will shortlist around top 15 to 20 solutions. We will take you through something called as the boot camp, which is going to be a virtual session for about a month. So every weekend we might have 4 to 5 sessions where you get to talk to the industry mentors directly. And finally, GAP jury, we have a jury of 7 panelists. They are going to assess the solutions where you will get to present one-on-one. And apart from that, we're also going to focus on organizing something called as the investors marketplace, which means that apart from the fund that GAP is offering, we'll also provide an opportunity for you to secure a larger amount of funding. So I would not go into details of the other things so much, but I think what would be interesting is if we can go to the next slide. These are the challenges. So we are focusing on 4 domains for this year, which is energy storage system, we have DRE. The third one is how do we really bring down the cost of DRE tariffs to rupees 4 per unit or lower. And then we finally have developing smart metering solutions using AI tools. Now if you look at the challenges very, very closely, they're going to be looking super specific, right? So it says, can you bring down the capital cost of energy storage system below 15,000 INR per kilowatt? Now that is a massive target to achieve. And most of the startups might feel intimidated as well. I do want to clarify one thing, that this is in line of sight of the target. This does not mean that if you don't have a solution which is at 15,000 INR currently, you can't participate, you can. But can you probably achieve this target in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years? What is your vision of achieving the industry standards that we really want to target? And similarly, if you look at the DRE tariffs, it is rupees 4 per unit or lower. Again, a massive target to achieve. These are the industry standards that are important, and if we don't put some sort of specifications, then this is going to become like any generic innovation challenge where startups are doing great work. That's good, but if we have to scale it in the market in next 2 years or 3 years, where is the differentiator? And I think GAP is going to be a little challenging because it's going to push your boundaries a little more. And similarly, we have the DRE aggregation, again with a minimum aggregation of 100 megawatt. So you can also read more details about these on our website. We'll leave the link at the end. We'll just move to the technical evaluation side now, which is going to be at 4 levels. So the first level of evaluations, we will try and shortlist around 100 solutions. These will be assessed based on generic indicators like what's your team compositions like, what is the kind of investments that have you raised before, what's your scalability aspect of your product, what's the mitigation potential of your product, etc. So very, very soft sides of the solutions will be assessed on level 1. But as you go further with level 2 and level 3, you can see that we are going to take a funnel approach, so from 100 to 25 and then 25 to 15. Now this is where you will be assessed directly by the industry organization. So this includes people like Mahindra, this includes people like Tata Power, this includes people like Selco Foundation, etc. And PhD also will be part of that. So this second category of evaluations will really define whether you will be eligible for the fourth round, which is going to be assessed by the ENTICE jury directly. And if we can go next to the next slide, I've also tried to mention at least some criteria here so that you have some understanding of where this is coming from. So for challenge 1, which is the energy storage system, this is all again mentioned on the website, so very happy to, if you want to read more, then please visit the website. It's called entice.org.in, and we'll also send soft copies to your emails if you have left it at the registration. But the first challenge will really assess you on your technical feasibility, your cost structure, scalability, and environmental impact. I don't want to go into the technical aspects because this is a lot of data, but can you by what level can you reduce the cost? Can you use repurposed batteries? If yes, what is going to be the cost structure? How much of cost structure are you going to bring down? What's the scalability potential of this product? What's the manufacturing cost going to look like? And finally, what's the environmental impact? Can you really what kind of materials are you really using? So a lot of indicators on that part. We can take questions towards the end. Then challenge 2, this is the DRE aggregation. Again, 4 factors, which is scalability, integration, technical aspects, and economics. Again, going to be, it sounds not similar, but when you read the specifics, it does create a lot of difference, right? So if you do have a DRE aggregation platform, can it be integrated with the existing product already? Are you using some sort of government subsidies to leverage this, or are you creating a new space altogether? How much of cost are you able to reduce through this, right? And how would you compensate for DRE providers, land banks, etc.? So a lot of factors again included in this one. Then we move on to the third one, which is how do we bring down the DRE tariff to rupees 4 per unit, and like I said, this is in line of sight with. So if you have a product which is similar to this challenge but might not have a specification of rupees 4 today. But if you're operating on, let's say, 12 rupees today, but you can bring it down with sufficient funding, with sufficient technical, iterations in next 2 years, you can still apply, because then we'll connect you to the industry mentors accordingly, so that maybe your journey from 2 years can substantially go down to, let's say, 1 year. And of course, if you are, your technical readiness level is already, let's say, at a 6 level, then of course your way to really achieve this target will be faster than someone who's just starting their journey in the sector, right? So again, you can read this, it's self-explanatory. And then finally we have the last one, which is smart meters. This is also something that I think Smart Power India, which was GAP's previous stint, they also focused a lot on smart power, so they have really, really solid network technical background on this, which is why the data points are also a lot, which is, what kind of data accuracy does your smart meter solution really offers? What is the cost saving structure going to look like? Is it compatible with the existing smart meters, or does it need like a different platform altogether? What's the efficiency going to look like? What kind of cybersecurity are you following for protection of data? What's the scalability model, and what's the user centricity of it? So if I have to really deploy it into market for the users, how comfortable is this going to be? What's going to be the interface like? So I'm sorry this was really rushed, but that was because we also have a technical person who's joined online, and I wanted to direct your questions directly to him, and whatever I can answer at my level, I'm happy to answer here. Otherwise, please write to us. This is going to be the ENTICE jury. So the level 4 that I mentioned about, you are going to be presenting directly to these folks, which is Mr. Jayant Sinha, who is the Member of Parliament, a former Minister of State of Finance. We also are joined by Ms. Akanksha Gulati. She's actually the Director of ACT Grant. Then we have, Urvashi Devidayal. She used to work at IntelliCap. She was the ex-principal. We are also going to be joined by Mahua Acharya. She is the former MD of Convergence Energy. We are also joined by Mr. Harish Hande. He is the co-founder of Selco India. And Abanti, she is the board member and executive member from Mahindra Group. And finally, we have Ravi Venkatesan. He's the former chair of, he used to work in Microsoft India for about 20 years. Right now, he's the chairperson of GAP. Yes, so this is pretty much about it. We have few more slides, but I think that we can hold on for now. And very happy to take questions. I just want to mention one more point. What is going to be the result of this, and what's the process going to look like eventually? So like I mentioned, between August to October, your evaluations, your pitches, your marketplace, everything will go on. Then we have something called as the India Energy Transition Dialogue. This is the global policy dialogue that GAP is hosting in India between 1st to 3rd, and we have confirmations from Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, so he's also going to be there, so you might be awarded directly by him. We are also going to have PM of Norway. We will have people from Niti Aayog, World Bank, USA, you name it, and all the big players are going to be there. So the top winning teams are going to be awarded at the India Energy Dialogues between 1st to 3rd of November. And I just want to mention one more thing, that when we say Series A funding, it does not mean that if your product is ready only to receive seed funding, we will not consider you. That's not true. The aim is definitely higher. We are shooting for the stars right now because we want to show that promise in the market. But if your product is really capable of, going from seed funding to Series A funding, we are also going to help you with that. So we are going to take a very, very much a portfolio approach. And the numbers are right now not fixed, because we don't want to just, restrict it to, let's say, 4 winners per challenge. That's not going to happen. So let's say 1 winner per challenge, but we also have 3 other fantastic solutions which, show commitment. Then by all means, we can have 8, we can have 10. We have a fund of $10 million, which is directly committed by GAP. And all the funders that you saw, which is Rockefeller, Bezos, IKEA, all of them are supporting that fund. And we are just starting to have a lot of conversations in the industry. So whether it is Avana Capital, Transition VC, Sangam, Mahindra, AVPN, you name it, and most of the players are interested in this. And our target is really to go from 10 million to 100 million in next 1 or 2 years, and eventually just make it to a 500. That's really ambitious, but that's the target. GAP in India this year, ENTICE is focused in India. Next year it will still continue to happen in India, but we are also including some of the Asia markets. So we might have Indonesia, we might have Vietnam and Cambodia. So those conversations are still going on with the political government as of now, and you'll get to hear more about it on our social media or yeah. So that's my monologue. Thank you for bearing with me.
Just trying to understand the background.
So, see, we have spoken to multiple stakeholders, and based on the interactions what we had with the mini-grid developers, discounts in certain states. I should not say all the states, but yeah, in certain cases. And from our own experiences of doing top solar projects in utility hard partner and does this great. So, yeah.
Sunil, is it clear? The answer is clear to you?
Sunil, is the answer clear to you, or should we ask Abhishek to
Fine.
got it?
Yeah, thanks.
Founder and CEO of All Resources. We are working on gravity storage based out of IIT Kanpur. Now we are celebrating. I mean, first of all, very congratulations for coming up with this, quite focused fund, and looking forward to have that results how it moves forward. I mean, we are celebrating the month of diversity, and now I had a look at the challenges, specific challenges, and I would be more happy if you be more diverse in terms of the technology intake. I mean, the first challenge is, speaking of energy storage. In fact, we are offering energy storage, but that's not chemistry. And in the fine print I saw there was gravity storage somewhere written out there. So I'm not knowing exactly what kind of lookout you have in first place. Second, I just wanted to have maybe as a comment from my side, you can take it as a suggestion. And it specifically the process, does it have a technical due diligence, technical evaluation? And in that sense, certain times we've seen a lot of, as I mentioned about diversity, each technology is different from other. And to have a very common pool of experts, sometimes lack that kind of ability to be able to. And there are certain unintended biases that are there, because people coming from let's say electrochemistry will have a limited thought toward a technology which is mechanical heavy. So they might not be looking. There's a job to be done. They do it. But let's say I just give you one specific example, and I'll try to be very short in that. For example, land use per megawatt hour of energy storage technologies. Now we happen to occupy larger space when we see us in the last spot, because we deliver it. Batteries happen to do a lot of mining in the upstream part of their whole value chain. And that land use is not counted. So if you are looking forward to have the installation land per megawatt hour, we might not be able to compete. But if you see the entire value chain, certain times the questions are framed by the technical jury in such a sense that they just want to see the results. But if you see the entire value chain, you will find batteries might not be equal to what we may be able to offer. These kind of specific nuances are required for you to evaluate, for any agency to evaluate. So this is a suggestion, and I just wanted to specifically know, are you open to all kind of, because there are 5 major verticals of storage, and you're only focused on one part of that vertical energy storage.
Clarify one thing, we are open to gravity, whatever. So gravity based, yes, it is very much part of the composition. So it's not restricted to just chemistry. So I think there are different types of chemistry. Neon, fuel cells, hydrogen, that's there, gravity included, and then we're also focusing on repurposing of batteries. So I think it is pretty flexible. So I wouldn't say it's restricted, which is why I said when you read the specifications on the website, maybe it will give you more idea. Having said that, coming to your second question, very, very valid point, and thanks for sharing. Definitely will take it up with the leadership, but I do want to just mention one thing, that this is something that we are also trying to evolve as organizations, because this is where we realize the major gaps are. You have a technical startup being assessed by someone who might not be heavily technical, and which is why on your screen, if you see these are 50% of the partners that I've actually left on the slide right now, because some of these conversations are still evolving. So the promise that GApp can't make is that our attempt is really to match you up with someone who really understands that networking and that background pretty solidly, and then go from there. Of course, the jury that you see might not have direct connections, but which is where level 2 and level 3 is going to do the filtration, right? And level 5 is going to be, again, I think the last stage where your due diligence have been done, you know, your impact potential, mitigation strategy, whatever, everything has been covered. And last stage really becomes, you know, your Shark Tank pitch. How do you really go on a TV and really pitch to someone? So that's about it. But they will come again with some sort of softer factors and decide what kind of funding might go to someone. But it is not to say that they are going to be the prime decision takers. No. The second level, I think I would recommend, is the most important one rather than level 4. Abhishek, if you have any inputs, please feel free to. If it makes sense, right? And if you're operating, let's say, on hydrogen, then how much of the cost are you bringing down with hydrogen technology? जो अभी फिलहाल मार्केट में बहुत हाई चल रहा है, उससे आप कितना परसेंटेज कम कर दोगे? वही पूरा चैलेंज है. So I hope it makes
process here. Yeah, absolutely. It's a process.
Yeah.
ऐसा नहीं है कि there in the market find it and place it as a territory. It's the process which is supporting the process.
And right now, I think the fund managers are currently working on the process, so I do not have absolute clarity, but this is what I can tell you, that it will be very much decided on case-to-case structure. It's going to be blended finance, equity-based model, if that makes sense.
Replacing diesel.
Yeah.
Hydrogen fuel cells.
Yes. So wherever diesel engine is there, competitive cost. Match it to the IC engine down the line, 2 to 3 years down the line.
So, line of sight of this particular problem is inclusive of this fuel cells. But if you are restricting yourself into only replacing the diesel and not
was slow execution of the idea. Once the idea is generated by the student doing either graduation in power engineering or renewable energy, the idea comes from that IIT, the engineering college. I don't know how many ideas have developed only in the RE sector. Besides the IT and other sectors, there are more than 1 lakh startups. How many you are know? Recently, IIT Delhi, they have set up an Institute of Excellence for a green hydrogen. They will work only for green hydrogen, because the startup and do some work along with the collaboration of ENTICE also. Not in the renewable energy sector and electric vehicle. So what is your suggestion? See, normally the ideas come from the students who are going to graduate, and they are helpless. They don't know where to go, कहाँ पर उनकी finance होगी, कैसे उसका commercialization होगा. Idea वो किताबों में अच्छा लगता है, laboratory में ठीक लगता है. You see, idea, and normally what happens is unfortunate. The lot of ideas and comes from the students, and those ideas are captured by the foreigner, European American country. वो उनको पकड़ लेते हैं, ग्रैब कर लेते हैं, फंड करते हैं, डेवलप करके अगेन दे सेल टू आवर कंट्री. अनफॉर्चुनेटली तो इसको कैसे आप एड्रेस करेंगी? बिकॉज यू आर गोइंग टू हैव ए प्रोग्राम डायलॉग इन नवंबर, और आपने सारे प्रोग्राम बताए हैं. दिस शुड बी एड्रेस्ड.
Thank you for raising the question, very valid sir. एक ही लाइन में बस बोलना चाहती हूँ कि GApp का जो पूरा मिशन है, I think this is the first initiative that we are taking. I am not saying that this is going to change the world. I am not committed to that, neither is GApp. But they are showing commitment to starting something which has the potential to change the world, right? I think there's a huge difference between that. What's the ideology that we come from? और जो आपने बोला वो GApp का एक मिशन है. How do we put India on the map? ये मेरी लास्ट स्लाइड थी जो मैंने काट दी क्योंकि टाइम सेव करना था. लेकिन GApp का मिशन यही है, because often times what happens is that you're very right. Those solutions that we get mostly it's some idea that probably an Indian organization is already working on, लेकिन उसको शायद उतनी अहमियत शायद उस टाइम पे नहीं मिली होगी. And this is why we are saying that by end of in next 2 years and 3 years, can we have an aggregation of 500 startups, 1,000 startups purely India based. That's going to change the conversation and that's going to change the visibility of where India really stands, right? And which is why this initiative is not just about एक organization क्या कर सकती है. This is really about 1,000 organizations साथ में क्या कर सकते हैं, इसमें government क्या कर सकती है. It's a pool of I think ecosystem जो हम लोग word बहुत loosely use करते हैं. उसका मतलब अगर हम लोग समझेंगे तो वो इस मायने में है. तो I would just say I do not know 5 years में कहाँ journey होगी, but I will expect कि अच्छी शुरुआत है और शायद फिर यहाँ से थोड़ा जल्दी कर पाएंगे.
No, see,
तो चाहे तो डिफेंस है कुछ भी है, we would love to take it forward. I would request my other delegates as well to raise their questions. Please introduce yourself also.
I'm Major Dr. Shripal. I am from a company Bunkerman. My question is to Ms. Neha. Now, mine is a new startup, but it's a new technology related with that COP26 only. We remove carbon from the air directly, convert it into organic manure, and we form a sustainable cycle of living mutually by trees and the human being. Though it is not related directly with energy, but with this new technology, we can save 30% energy on air conditioning plant. It has been proved. And the technology has been patented. It has also been recently approved by the DRDO Ministry of Defense, about to be implemented. But I am just a retired officer, I am not a businessman, trying to open a small business. Mine is a startup. Now my question is, can this funding of yours can be given to technology like this also, which is not directly related, but it saves about 30% of energy in electricity. And it is a new technology for the first time in India, and it is totally indigenous technology. We can directly capture CO2 and other pollution from the air, and the technology is so important. And we have been using this technology for past about 20 years in India only. But unfortunately, this was not available to open public. Now, after Corona recently, government has agreed that part of this technology should be used for the safety of common man. So, I wanted to know whether we can also apply for this funding or not. It's a good idea.
These are the ideas that we really want to hear, because the conversation is really where do we want to also invest our money after this year, right? So for next year, whether it is hydropower that I think one of the gentlemen he spoke about, and then you are also suggesting this one. So I think let's just also work on these ideas, because at a time you can do only so much, right? So for this year, I think our target would still remain the 4 challenges that we have mentioned. And the second thing is that the next chapter for next year is going to be launched soon. And definitely the bracket of challenges for next year would be much more. And hopefully we might have a challenge around this area that we spoke about. So it really depends on the kind of conversations that we have with industry partners, you know, and in Asia, where are the needs in Asia right now? How can then India supply some of the solutions back to Asia, also promote their innovations, etc. So I would just say for this year, maybe not, but definitely we'll see next year.
Thank you.
In the funding agencies, venture capitalists and others, we would like to hear your ideas, and I think you should connect with Puneet also in that sense. We keep getting a lot of inquiries on such innovative technologies from others as well, and the Secretariat is actually overactive on this part. I wonder how we have missed you. Maybe you are not a PhD member as of now. Otherwise, you would have definitely heard
No,
about
I am the PhD member also, sir, and I gave a presentation here how to accelerate
So
for
to
this
cap
2070
cap your
target.
thoughts, I
Sir.
would just say
Alright.
that please let us have once again the opportunity of hearing what you are saying. Some of us may have missed your presentation at that point of time. We'll definitely try and connect you. Even this year we'll try, and in any case you can let them hear your story in advance so that they can, you know, at least mold some of their money towards converging into the kinds of pockets that you are talking about. So the next round of funding may be coming from them, but in the meanwhile we'd like to look at it.
Thank you.
Can I say some technology transfer? So I think it would be good if you can contact Professor Vamsi Krishna head DESE, Department of Energy, Science and Engineering, and MD Fit. So they may be able to give you some technology, and maybe you can provide some funds, they may give you some ideas.
IIT Madras as well actually. And if you look at some of our partners, including PhD, I think they're very well networked, and I think we will definitely leverage their support.
There are partners
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
FITTs and
Director of IIT Delhi from IIT Bombay. He was heading the energy department there in IIT Bombay. So he's an energy man also. He's also professor in the department of energy.
We have already written to all IITs and we are also in touch with Alpha IIT.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your suggestion. All IITians are always respected and always welcome at PhD in any case. Please treat this as part of your extended family. Thank you for all suggestions.
No, besides, I have to.
Who are trying to actually put together energy challenge on various sectors, storage, adding value into the distribution sector and transmission and others. And a lot of $10 million funding that they are putting in place to promote and capitalize these startups. PhD is not only a champion of MSME and startup, but is trying to get this fundings capitalized and pooled from various sources. We are also very happy to not only be a G20 startup secretariat, but handhold these energy company startups, but also many others as were present today. A great interaction has happened with a lot of these companies, and we hope that not only will this ENTICE and JEEP be successful, but through PhD's presence, I invite all the other startups also to come and try to explore how PhD can help them not only raise money, get strategic partners, and also investors and joint venture partners to grow their businesses. I wish PhD, ENTICE, JEEP, and especially our startups great luck. Build India, help India grow. All the best to you. Thank you.